My dad laughed at me when I told him about Bitcoin in 2011, said it was fake money, said I was an idiot for even thinking about it. 13 years later, he works for me now. But not for the reason you think. I'm Jake, and I'm about to tell you how I made $2.5 million with Bitcoin, and then lost every single penny of it. You might think you know this story. You don't. Let me take you back to 2011. I was 22, fresh out of college with a marketing degree that wasn't worth the paper it was printed on. Living in my childhood bedroom, driving my mom's beat-up Honda Civic. You know the drill. My dad worked construction. My mom taught elementary school. We were middle class, but the kind of middle class where you actually looked at prices when you went grocery shopping. I was sending out resumes every day. The economy was still messed up from 2008, and nobody was hiring. I was competing with people who had actual experience while I had nothing but a diploma and a whole lot of hope. That's when I found Bitcoin. I was procrastinating on job applications, scrolling through some tech forums, when I came across this discussion about digital money. People were talking about this thing called cryptocurrency. Most of them were calling it a scam. But there were a few believers, and man, they were passionate. The concept blew my mind. Money that existed only in computers, no banks controlling it, no government telling you what to do with it. It sounded like science fiction. Bitcoin was trading at around $8, $8 for one coin. I brought it up at dinner that night. Dad, have you heard about Bitcoin? He looked up from his meatloaf. Jake, you're talking about fake money. Real money is what I get in my paycheck every Friday. This internet stuff is just a way for computer nerds to separate fools from their cash. My mom nodded. Your father's right, honey. Focus on finding a real job with real benefits. But here's the thing about being 22 and thinking you know everything. Their skepticism just made me more interested. I started reading everything I could find. White papers, forum discussions, news articles. I was obsessed. The technology behind Bitcoin fascinated me. This thing called blockchain. The idea that you could have a completely decentralized currency that nobody could control. It was revolutionary. But I didn't have any money to invest. I was broke. So I got creative. I started doing odd jobs, mowing lawns, walking dogs, anything to scrape together a few bucks. I saved every penny I could, stopped going out with friends, stopped buying coffee. I was like a man possessed. By the end of 2011, I had managed to save up about $200. Not much, but it was enough to buy 25 Bitcoins. 25 coins for $200. I remember the exact moment I made my first purchase. I was sitting in my bedroom, hands shaking as I clicked the buy button. My heart was pounding. I felt like I was doing something illegal, even though I wasn't. My dad walked by my room and saw me staring at my laptop screen. What are you doing in there? Just bought some Bitcoin, Dad. He laughed. Actually laughed. You just threw away $200 on fake money. I hope you learned your lesson. I didn't say anything, but inside I was thinking he was wrong. I was sure he was wrong. For the next year, nothing happened. Bitcoin stayed around $8 to $10. Some days it would go up a little, some days it would go down. I started to wonder if my dad was right, but I held on. I kept reading, kept learning. I understood the technology better than most people. I knew this was going to be big. I just didn't know when. I finally got a job at a small marketing company. The pay was terrible, but it was something. I was still living at home, still driving my mom's car. But now I had a steady income. And every month, I bought more Bitcoin. Not much, maybe $50 or $100 worth. But I was consistent. I was what people in the crypto world call a dollar-cost average investor. I bought the same amount every month, regardless of the price. My friends thought I was crazy. They were spending their money on going out, buying new clothes, upgrading their phones. I was living like a monk, putting every extra dollar into Bitcoin. "Dude, you're obsessed," my friend Mike said one day. "It's just internet money. Why don't you invest in something real, like stocks?" I tried to explain it to him, the potential of cryptocurrency, how it could change everything. But he didn't get it. None of them did. By early 2013, I had about 150 Bitcoins. The price was starting to move. It hit $100 in April, then $200, then $300. I remember the day it hit $1,000, November 2013. I was at work, pretending to do marketing stuff, but really just watching the price on my phone. When it crossed 1,000, I nearly fell out of my chair. My 150 Bitcoins were suddenly worth $150,000. I was 24 years old, and I had more money than my parents had ever seen in their lives. But I didn't sell. I held on. I believed this was just the beginning. Looking back, that was my first mistake. I should have taken some profits, but I was young and greedy and convinced I was smarter than everyone else. Then came the crash of 2014. Bitcoin went from $1,000 to $200 in a matter of months. My $150,000 became $30,000. I watched it happen in real time. Every day, the price would drop another 10 or 20%. I felt sick. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. My dad didn't say anything, but I could see it in his eyes. That look that said, "I told you so." But I still didn't sell. I held on. I believed in the technology. I believed in the future of cryptocurrency, and I kept buying. Every month, I put more money in. The price was low, so I could buy more coins with the same amount of money. This is when I learned about something called altcoins. These are cryptocurrencies other than Bitcoin. There were hundreds of them. Ethereum, Litecoin, Ripple, each one promising to be the next Bitcoin. I started diversifying. I bought Ethereum when it was $12. I bought Litecoin when it was $4. I was building a portfolio of different cryptocurrencies. My friends thought I had lost my mind. "You're throwing good money after bad," they said. "Cut your losses and get out." But I couldn't. I was in too deep. I had invested too much time, too much energy, too much of my identity into this. I wasn't just invested financially, I was invested emotionally. The crypto market stayed low for almost 3 years. From 2014 to 2017, it was like a desert. Nothing was happening. People were calling Bitcoin dead. The media was writing obituaries for cryptocurrency. But I held on. I kept buying. I kept believing. Then came 2017, and everything changed. Bitcoin started climbing again. $1,000, $2,000, $5,000. But this time, it wasn't just Bitcoin. All the altcoins were going crazy too. Ethereum went from $12 to $400. Litecoin went from $4 to $200. Coins I had never heard of were making people millionaires overnight. I was sitting on a gold mine. My portfolio was exploding. Every day I was making more money than I made in a year at my job. By September 2017, I had about $1.2 million. I was a crypto millionaire at 28 years old. I remember the exact moment I realized I was rich. I was sitting in my childhood bedroom, looking at my phone, calculating my net worth. The numbers didn't seem real. I should have sold some. I should have taken profits. But I was greedy. I wanted more. The crypto community was in full euphoria mode. Everyone was talking about Bitcoin going to $100,000. Some people were saying it would hit $1 million per coin. I bought into the hype. I started leveraging my positions. For those who don't know, leverage means borrowing money to buy more crypto. It's like gambling with money you don't have. I was using 3x leverage, which means for every dollar I had, I could buy $3 worth of crypto. If the price went up, I made 3 times the profit. But if it went down, I lost 3 times as much. I was playing with fire, and I knew it. But I was addicted to the rush. Every day was like Christmas morning. I would wake up and check my phone, and I'd be richer than I was the day before. December 2017. Bitcoin hit $20,000. My portfolio hit $2.5 million. $2.5 million. I was 28 years old, and I was worth more than most people make in their entire lives. I remember that day clearly. I was at my marketing job, pretending to work, but really just staring at my phone in disbelief. I had made it. I was rich. I went home that night and told my parents. My dad didn't believe me at first. I had to show him my account balance. "Holy shit," he said. "You were right. I was wrong." For the first time in my life, I felt like I had proven something. Not just to my dad, but to everyone who had doubted me. All those friends who called me crazy. All those people who said crypto was a scam. I started spending money like crazy. I bought a new car, a BMW. I moved out of my parents' house and got my own place. A nice place. I was living the dream. But I still didn't sell most of my crypto. I was convinced it was going higher. Bitcoin was going to $50,000, then $100,000. The sky was the limit. I was getting cocky. I thought I was a genius. I thought I had figured out the secret to wealth. Man, I was so wrong. January 2018. The crypto market started to turn. Bitcoin dropped from 20,000 to 15,000, then to 10,000. But I wasn't worried. I had seen crashes before. This was just a correction. The problem was, I was leveraged. Remember, I was using borrowed money to buy more crypto. So when the price went down, I lost money 3 times faster than normal. My $2.5 million became $2 million, then $1.5 million, then $1 million. I should have sold. I should have taken my profits and walked away. But I couldn't. I was paralyzed by greed and fear. Greed because I still believed it was going higher. Fear because I didn't want to admit I was wrong. I started getting margin calls. That's when the exchange where I was trading demanded more money to cover my leveraged positions. I had to either put in more money or sell some of my crypto. I put in more money. I emptied my savings account. I borrowed money from friends. I was doubling down on a losing bet. The market kept falling. Bitcoin hit $8,000, then $6,000. My portfolio was hemorrhaging money. I was in denial. I kept telling myself it was temporary. The market would bounce back. It always had before. But this time was different. This wasn't just a correction. This was a full-blown crash. By March 2018, Bitcoin was at $6,000. My portfolio was down to about $800,000. I had lost almost 70% of my wealth in 3 months. I was a mess. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. I was obsessed with the charts. I would wake up in the middle of the night to check prices. My friends and family were worried about me. I had become a different person. I was angry, depressed, and completely consumed by the market. "Maybe you should sell," my dad said one day. "Cut your losses and move on." But I couldn't. I was too deep. I had invested everything I had, financially and emotionally. If I sold now, I would have to admit that I was wrong, that I had been stupid, that I had wasted years of my life. So I held on, and the market kept falling. Bitcoin hit $4,000 in November 2018. My portfolio was down to about $400,000. I had lost $2.1 million in less than a year. But even then, I didn't sell. I was like a gambler who couldn't walk away from the table. I kept thinking the next hand would be the one that would make it all back. The crypto market stayed low for the next year. Bitcoin bounced around between $3,000 and $4,000. My portfolio was stuck at around $400,000. I was still leveraged. I was still trying to trade my way back to profitability. I was making desperate moves, trying to catch every pump and dump. I started trading altcoins more aggressively. I would hear about a new coin that was supposed to be the next big thing, and I would put everything into it. Most of the time, I would lose money. I was like a drug addict. I needed the rush of making money, but I was too addicted to the game to walk away when I was losing. In 2019, the market started to recover a little. Bitcoin went from $4,000 to $8,000. My portfolio went from $400,000 to about $800,000. I thought I was making a comeback, but I got greedy again. I increased my leverage. I started trading more aggressively. I was trying to make back all the money I had lost as quickly as possible. That's when I made my biggest mistake. In early 2020, there was a massive market crash. Not just crypto, but everything. Stocks, bonds, commodities. The whole financial system was falling apart because of the pandemic. Bitcoin dropped from $8,000 to $3,000 in a matter of days. My leveraged positions got wiped out. Everything I had left was gone. Zero. I had $0 left in my crypto accounts. I had gone from $2.5 million to nothing. All of it was gone. I remember the exact moment I realized I had lost everything. I was sitting in my apartment, staring at my phone, looking at my account balance. $0 and 0 cents. I felt like I was going to throw up. I felt like the world was ending. I had spent almost a decade building this portfolio, and it was all gone. I couldn't tell anyone. I was too ashamed, too embarrassed. I had been so cocky, so sure of myself. I had bragged about my success, and now I had nothing to show for it. I was broke. Worse than broke. I was in debt. I had borrowed money to fund my trading, and I still owed thousands of dollars to friends and family. I had to move back in with my parents. I had to sell my car. I had to take a job at a fast food restaurant just to pay the bills. My dad didn't say anything. He didn't have to. I could see it in his eyes. He felt sorry for me. I was 31 years old, and I was starting over from nothing. I felt like a failure, like I had wasted the best years of my life chasing something that was never real. I was depressed. I was angry. I was lost. But slowly, very slowly, I started to pick up the pieces. It took me about 2 years to get back on my feet. I worked multiple jobs, paid off my debts, and started saving money again. Real money this time. Not crypto. I learned some hard lessons during those dark years. Lessons that I wish I had learned earlier. First, I learned that greed is a dangerous thing. It can make you do stupid things. It can make you risk everything you have for the chance of getting more. Second, I learned that leverage is a double-edged sword. It can amplify your gains, but it can also amplify your losses. And when you're leveraged, you can lose everything very quickly. Third, I learned that diversification is important. I had put all my eggs in one basket. When that basket fell, I lost everything. Fourth, I learned that you should never invest more than you can afford to lose. I had invested everything I had, and when I lost it, I was left with nothing. Fifth, I learned that success can be just as dangerous as failure. When I was making money, I got cocky. I thought I was invincible. I stopped being careful. But most importantly, I learned that money isn't everything. When I lost all my money, I thought my life was over. But it wasn't. I was still alive. I still had my family. I still had my health. I realized that I had been chasing the wrong thing. I had been so focused on making money that I had forgotten what was really important. Today, I'm doing well. Not crypto millionaire well, but well. I have a steady job, a modest savings account, and a better understanding of what really matters in life. I still follow the crypto market. I still believe in the technology. But I'm not obsessed with it anymore. I'm not leveraged. I'm not trying to get rich quick. I invest a small amount of money in crypto every month. Just a little bit. Money that I can afford to lose. I've learned to be patient. I've learned to be disciplined. My dad and I have a better relationship now. He respects me more, I think. Not because I'm rich, but because I survived. Because I learned from my mistakes. Because I didn't give up. He actually asked me to help him invest some of his retirement money. That's why I say he works for me now. He trusts my judgment. He knows I've learned from my mistakes. I started a small consulting business, helping other people learn about crypto and investing. I teach them the lessons I learned the hard way. I try to help them avoid the mistakes I made. I'm not trying to get rich from this. I'm just trying to help people, to share what I learned, to maybe save someone else from going through what I went through. So why am I telling you all this? I mean, what's the point of spilling my guts to a bunch of strangers on the internet? Honestly, I don't know. Maybe I'm just trying to make sense of it all myself. Maybe I'm trying to convince myself that losing everything wasn't completely meaningless. But if you're sitting there thinking about throwing money at crypto, or if you're already in the game, I guess I just want to say this. Man, be careful. I know that sounds boring. I know you've heard it before. But I watched my life fall apart because I got too cocky. Because I thought I was different, smarter, luckier. I wasn't. You know what's funny? When I had all that money, I thought I was so wise. I thought I had it all figured out. I was giving advice to people. Can you believe that? Me, giving financial advice. Now I work at a marketing agency again. Not even a good one. I drive a used Honda Civic. Again. Full circle, right? But here's the weird part. I sleep better now. I actually sleep through the night. I don't wake up at 3 a.m. to check crypto prices. I don't have that constant knot in my stomach anymore. Money's weird like that. When you have too much of it, especially when you didn't really earn it, it messes with your head. You want to know what really saved me? It wasn't some grand realization or life-changing moment. It was my dad. Remember how I said he works for me now? Well, that's not exactly true. Not in the way you think. About 6 months after I lost everything, he came to me. I was living in his basement again, eating cereal for dinner, feeling sorry for myself. "Jake," he said, "I've been thinking about this crypto thing." I almost laughed. "Dad, trust me, you don't want to get into crypto. Look how it worked out for me." But he sat down next to me on that old couch. "No, listen. I've been reading about it, the technology stuff, and I think you were right about that part." He pulled out his phone. "I want to put $100 a month into Bitcoin, but I want you to help me do it. Not because you're some expert, but because you know what not to do." And that's how it started. Every month, my dad gives me $100, and I help him buy Bitcoin. Just a little bit. No leverage, no trading, no trying to get rich quick. It's been 3 years now. His $100 a month Bitcoin investment is doing okay. Not life-changing money, but it's growing slowly. And you know what? Helping him do it the right way has been more rewarding than making millions ever was. Here's what nobody tells you about losing everything. It's not the money that hurts the most. It's the shame. The shame of having to admit you were wrong. The shame of moving back in with your parents. The shame of people looking at you differently. I used to walk into rooms and people would whisper, "That's the guy who had millions in Bitcoin and lost it all." For a while, I wanted to disappear. I wanted to move to a different city where nobody knew my story. But then I realized something. My story isn't unique. There are thousands of people out there who've been through the same thing. Maybe not with crypto, but with something else. Real estate, stocks, business ventures, gambling. We all think we're the only ones who've screwed up this badly, but we're not. I'm not going to give you a list of investment tips. There are smarter people than me who can do that. But I will tell you this. If you're going to play with crypto, or any investment really, treat it like Vegas. Only bet what you can afford to lose. And when you're up, take some chips off the table. I never took chips off the table. I kept letting it ride. And eventually, the house always wins. Also, don't let your investments become your identity. I made that mistake. When crypto was going up, I felt like a genius. When it crashed, I felt like an idiot. But I'm the same person either way. Just a guy from Ohio who got lucky and then got unlucky. You know what? I lied earlier. I do know why I'm telling you this story. It's because I spent 3 years feeling like a complete failure. Like I was the only person stupid enough to lose everything. Like I was broken somehow. And then I started talking to other people. Really talking. Not just surface level stuff. And I found out that a lot of people have been where I've been. Maybe not with crypto, but with something. That guy at the coffee shop who's always friendly, he lost his house in 2008. That woman at the gym who's always encouraging, she went through a divorce that wiped out her savings. We're all just trying to figure it out. We're all making mistakes and learning from them. If you've ever felt like you lost yourself chasing a dream, you're not alone. Drop your story in the comments. Maybe we can learn from each other. I'm done pretending I have all the answers. I'm done trying to be perfect. I'm just Jake. I had some money. I lost some money. And I'm still here. That's something, right? You know, losing everything was the hardest thing I've ever faced. But looking back, it taught me more than any win ever could. It showed me the real cost of chasing quick riches and the value of patience, humility, and learning from your mistakes. If you're thinking about diving into crypto or any kind of investment, remember this. It's not just about the money. It's about the journey, the risks, and knowing when to walk away. I'm not here to preach or tell you I have all the answers. I'm just sharing my story, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So maybe you don't have to go through the same pain. Thanks for watching, and if you found this helpful, consider subscribing. There's a lot more stories and lessons coming your way. Stay smart, stay patient, and take care of yourself.